Everyone says the mate bond is sacred. They've never met a pack that values their stock price more than fate. The camera angle was perfect. A close-up on the 4-tier lemon lavender cake, the morning light catching the gold dust I'd painstakingly brushed onto the frosting. Behind the lens, the comments were already flooding in. Welcome back to the grand opening stream, everyone. If you're just joining, I'm Maya, and this is Sweet Spot Bakery, my dream, 3 years in the making. Say hi to the crew. I spun the camera just enough to capture my 2 proud, slightly sweaty staffers. Everything was flawless. The scent of cinnamon rolls and fresh coffee hung heavy in the air, a perfect mix of sugar and warmth. My wolf, the quiet, timid part of me that I usually kept tucked away, was purring with contentment. Achievement. Safe. I had my challenges, sure. My genetics weren't exactly standard issue. Having Down syndrome had always made me feel like an anomaly, both in the human world and the pack periphery I grew up in. But today, I was just Maya, baker, entrepreneur. And the stream numbers, they were climbing. 50,000 viewers and counting. Okay, stream check. If you want a sneak peek at the sourdough starter, hit the like button now. Oh, wait, hold on. Someone's coming in. New customer, everyone. Be nice. I joked, turning back to the register. That's when the air changed. The transition was immediate, violent. The scent of sugar and yeast was obliterated by a sensory overload that drove my wolf from her cage. It hit me like a physical blow. Pine, thunder, and something primal, raw, powerful, and utterly mine. My breath hitched. My hands, steady a moment before, began to tremble. I dropped the camera, the stream now showing an upside-down view of the floor, but the mic was still open. He stood in the doorway, a shadow against the morning sun. Tall, broad, dressed in a custom-tailored suit that looked ridiculous against the sheer, untamed power radiating off him. His eyes, the color of molten gold, locked onto mine. Mine. Claim. Submit. The word echoed in my mind link, not spoken, but an instruction delivered on the primal frequency only my kind could feel. It wasn't a question. It was a command. And it wasn't coming from me. This was no ordinary man. This was an alpha. Not just any alpha. I recognized him from the pack-wide news feeds, the ones my mother warned me never to look at. This was Alpha Crew Blackwood, the future sovereign of the largest, most ruthless pack on the continent. My wolf surged forward, a wave of heat and blinding desire, demanding I run to him, drop to my knees, and offer my neck. But my human mind screamed, "Danger! He is Alpha! You are nothing!" He started walking toward the counter. Every step was deliberate, predatory. The 50,000 viewers watching the fallen camera feed could hear every sound. The soft thud of his expensive shoes, my own ragged breathing, the clatter of the gold coin he tossed onto the register. "I need one thing," he growled, his voice deep enough to vibrate through my bones. He didn't look at the coin, only at me. I found my voice, thin and shaky. "Sir, we haven't officially opened for orders yet." He reached across the counter. His fingers, large and warm, brushed the side of my neck. The contact was electric, a jolt of pure, terrifying recognition. The nascent mate bond snapped into place like lightning finding ground. It was an instant, searing connection that bypassed my mind and went straight to my very DNA. My wolf howled in triumph, a sound only I could hear. His eyes flared gold, momentarily losing their human logic. He wasn't looking at Maya, the baker. He was looking at his mate, his property. "The mate bond is here," he whispered, a mix of awe and possessiveness. Then a sudden dark shadow crossed his features, the alpha command overriding the mate pole. "But this is messy." He glanced at the fallen phone, then back at me. A flash of regret instantly replaced by ruthless determination. He knew the video was running. He knew what he was about to do. He made his choice. He slammed his hand on the counter, sending the phone skittering, flipping the camera back up right into his face. For a solid 5 seconds, the massive online audience saw the alpha of the Blackwood pack, the most powerful wolf in North America, staring into the lens. Then his wolf took over completely. His pupils dilated into slits, his canines elongated, and a low, terrifying growl ripped from his chest. Before I could scream, he launched himself over the counter, shoved me against the wall, and sank his teeth deep into the soft, vulnerable flesh of my neck. I woke up in a pristine white hospital room, the sterile scent of antiseptic doing nothing to mask the sickeningly sweet, possessive scent of his mark on my skin. The alpha had claimed me. On camera. The stream must have ended in chaos. A silver tray of untouched hospital food sat next to a stack of legal documents tied with a silver ribbon, a pack symbol. 12 hours. 12 hours since the world saw the future sovereign publicly maul a human werewolf hybrid omega. The door burst open. It wasn't him. It was a phalanx of wolves in dark suits, led by a tall, cold-eyed beta I recognized, Marcus. He reeked of duty and pack law. "Maya," Marcus stated, his voice devoid of warmth, "this is regrettable. A medical mistake." Medical mistake. My neck throbbed. I had a mate mark, a permanent symbol of a werewolf claiming his other half. Your alpha bit me in front of 50,000 people. Marcus placed a thick packet of papers on my lap. The video has gone viral. We are mitigating the scandal. Alpha crew is sedated 3 floors up, thrashing and howling your name, by the way. He's volatile. The thought of his primal pain sent a sympathetic tremor through the fresh bond, a sting that caught me off guard. Marcus continued, a sneer barely veiled. This pack, the Blackwood Sovereign's lineage, does not mate with those outside the core bloodlines, especially not with omegas who have genetic irregularities. He eyed my extra chromosome, my Down syndrome, with open disdain. He slid a check across the table. It was $2 million. "Sign the NDA," he instructed. "You will state this was a random attack by an unidentified rogue who resembled the Alpha. You will reject the nascent bond and disappear from the territory permanently." My wolf was screaming, "No! Mine! Fight!" But my human mind saw the raw terror in the beta's eyes. This wasn't just PR. This was a cover-up for something darker. Crew was in trouble. If I stayed, the Sovereign would destroy us both. I glanced at the check. Enough money to move my entire family, protect my brother, and vanish forever. Enough to save them all from the Sovereign's laws. The bond, though painful, was still nascent. I could reject it. I had to. I mean, I was just a girl with Down syndrome, and it's better I do the rejection now instead of getting rejected later. I looked at the Alpha's blood still drying on my neck, then at the silver ribbon on the legal documents, and finally at the $2 million. It was enough to save my entire family, to get my brother far away from the Sovereign's toxic pack laws. My wolf whimpered, betrayed. But my human side saw the only path to survival. I grabbed the pen, signed the rejection line, and pushed the papers away. I took the cashier's check, folding it carefully, accepting the fact that I had just signed away my fate and my mate. Then I severed the link to save us all. The pen felt like lead in my hand, heavy with the weight of my future. When I pushed the signed NDA and the rejection form back across the sterile hospital table, Marcus, the beta, didn't even look at me. He just scooped up the papers like they were toxic waste. "Wise choice, Maya," he said, his voice flat. "The Sovereign is protective of the Blackwood lineage. You're dismissed. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises before pack security escorts you out." I didn't argue. I didn't even look at the check for $2 million, a fortune that represented the life I was giving up and the one I was buying for my family. The overwhelming scent of fear and betrayal in the room made my wolf restless, pacing behind my ribs. Weak. Coward. Run. The pack law was clear. A rejected mate bond was supposed to sever clean. It should feel like a phantom limb, a deep ache of loss. But as I walked out of the hospital, leaving the sedated Alpha crew thrashing and howling 3 floors above me, the bond didn't feel severed. It felt broken, but still thrumming. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. His scent, the powerful mix of pine and thunder that defined Alpha crew, was still imprinted on my skin, layered over with the sickly chemical smell of the rejection injection the nurse had given me. I hailed a cab, far away from the hospital, far away from the Blackwood territory, and gripped the cashier's check until the paper crinkled. Safety first. Protect the brother. That's why you ran. But the Alpha's howl still echoed in my ears, a sound of raw, pure agony. It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. 4 hours later, I was huddled in a cheap, anonymous motel room 2 states away, the television drone providing a meager distraction. A news banner scrolled across the bottom. Blackwood Alpha's viral assault. Pack issues statement. I was watching my own life crumble in real time. My image, slightly fuzzy, mid-scream, was on the screen. The statement, issued by the Sovereign's public relations team, called it a tragic, non-mate-related attack by a recently turned rogue wolf, and confirmed that the victim had been fully compensated for her trauma. They were already scrubbing the viral video from the internet, but I knew it was too late. The world had seen. I got up to splash water on my face, the tension making my skin itch. That's when I saw it. In the motel mirror, the mark, Crew's possessive bite, was still an angry red knot on my neck. But as I watched, my skin began to ripple, the mark growing paler, then disappearing entirely. Then, just as quickly, it snapped back, angry and redder than before. What? I wasn't an alpha. I wasn't even a fully matured wolf, keeping my shifts mostly for the full moon and private moments. A newly marked wolf, especially one who had just undergone a bond rejection, should not have this kind of unstable physical reaction. I flexed my hand, clutching the edge of the sink. My knuckles popped. I gasped. The bones in my fingers had elongated, thickening. The tips of my nails pushed through the skin, becoming dark, sharp claws. They weren't just long nails, they were weapons. A partial, midday, anxiety-induced shift that was completely impossible for a wolf of my low standing. My wolf, which had been whimpering with the pain of rejection, suddenly surged with a terrifying, unknown power. It wasn't just a wolf instinct. It was something metallic, vibrating, and wrong. Mine. Power. Change. I yanked my hand back, forcing the claws to retract. The transformation was agonizingly quick, the sharp bone crunching back into place, leaving my fingertips throbbing. My eyes snapped up to the mirror, searching for any sign of a gold flash. Nothing. But the moment I saw my reflection, I knew the bitter truth. The rejection hadn't severed the bond. It had destabilized me. Crew's mark was different, and my body was fighting it. I backed away from the mirror, clutching my temples, as the unexpected physical pain merged with the psychic ache of the broken bond. I had to assume the unstable shifts were a side effect of the high-powered rejection serum coupled with Crew's aggressive claim. I had to assume I was still just an omega. I slumped onto the bed, pulling out my phone to text my younger brother, the whole reason for this sacrifice. He was staying with our aunt, miles away, blissfully unaware of the viral scandal. Before I could type, a loud formal knock rattled the motel room door. "Maya," a voice called out, smooth and utterly devoid of mercy. "The Sovereign is disappointed. You've signed the documents, but you haven't left the pact territory fast enough. We're here to ensure compliance." It was a different voice from Marcus, deeper, older. Security. They weren't just here to watch me leave. They were here to police my disappearance. I scrambled up, heart slamming against my ribs. I couldn't open the door. The moment they saw my face, saw the lingering intensity of the mark on my neck, they would know the truth. The bond wasn't fully broken. I scanned the room wildly. Window, tiny bathroom, heavy-duty door chain. I backed toward the window, ready to risk the fall, when the man outside spoke again, a clear, authoritative broadcast meant to be heard. Furthermore, Alpha Crew Blackwood is set to be officially mated to Luna Serena of the Crest Moon Pack in 2 weeks. This is a political necessity to solidify the Sovereign's power and secure the Eastern Territory. Your involvement, Miss Maya, is an inconvenience we are ready to erase. A political mating. My mate, the one who had claimed me with such primal force, was already being married off. The Sovereign, the antagonist of my life, was declaring the fated mate bond null and arranging a political alliance. The revelation hit harder than the rejection. Open the door, Maya, or we open it for you. My muscles tensed, preparing to spring. I grabbed my backpack, passport check, water, and braced to smash the cheap glass window. Suddenly, the air pressure in the room dropped. The window glass vibrated, not from the men outside, but from an external, terrifying force. The ground shuddered. It was a sound that transcended territory, a deep, resonating blast of pain, rage, and pure alpha dominance. It was a primal, gut-wrenching howl that spoke directly to the core of my soul, overriding every command, every fear, every logical thought. It was the howl of Crew Blackwood. He hadn't just escaped lockdown, he had broken free. The men outside the door froze. They recognized the sound too. It was a declaration of war, a territorial claim, a mating call, all rolled into a single, devastating wave of sound. The windows rattled violently, and I could swear I heard the faint crack of bone in my own neck as my body instinctively responded. The sound faded, leaving only a tremor in the ground. And I knew the terrible, simple truth. The rejection had merely unleashed the monster I was running from. The Alpha was coming for me. The Alpha's howl hadn't just been a sound, it was a physical roadmap. It was the absolute proof that the rejection hadn't worked, and worse, it had served as a catalyst, jolting the nascent bond awake and sending Crew Blackwood into a frenzy. I didn't waste another second. I vaulted out the window, landing with a clumsy thud in the motel's overgrown flower bed. The $2 million check was now balled up and secured inside my bra, a ridiculous security measure, but the only safety net I had. I ran until the cheap, faded scent of the motel was gone, then ran past the familiar highway scents, turning onto a logging trail. I had to ditch the roads. If the Sovereign's security guards were pack wolves, they'd track the metallic scent of the rejection injection and my fear. But I was also running into a new danger, Crew's scent. It was everywhere now. Pine, thunder, and a layer of raw, desperate grief that tightened the muscles in my chest. He was moving fast, no longer under sedation, no longer inhibited by human logic. He was tracking me with the lethal efficiency of a sovereign-bred alpha wolf. My wolf, the one who had been quietly whimpering with the pain of rejection, was now straining against my ribs, answering the primal pull. "No," I whispered, forcing myself to push harder. "He rejected you. He's going to be mated to another Luna. This is dangerous." The strange, impossible phasing from Chapter 2 was still unnerving. My body temperature was spiking, my senses were violently overloaded, and twice I had felt the tips of my molars sharpen, a phantom transformation that only added to my frantic paranoia. Crew's claim hadn't just marked my skin, it had rewritten my genetics. I pulled out my phone just long enough to send a cryptic text to my aunt, a pre-arranged safety phrase, letting her know I was initiating the emergency plan with my brother. Then I tossed the phone into a stream. They wouldn't track me via satellites. They'd track me with instinct. I had been running for over an hour, the forest floor damp under my worn boots. I was deep inside unclaimed territory, the boundary lines faint and weak. I paused behind a thick cluster of old-growth pines to catch my breath, my ears straining to hear anything over my own pounding heart. That's when I heard the low, urgent chatter. Not crew, different voices. Human. She's close. Marcus confirmed the signal drop here. Sovereign wants her quiet and intact. I dropped to my knees, flattening myself against the cold, damp earth. 2 men in expensive hiking gear walked past my hiding spot. They were too clean, too precise for this forest. They reeked of manufactured scent blocker, but beneath it, I recognized a familiar, aggressive pack scent. The one that had been in my hospital room. The PR team. They weren't rogue agents yet. They were still acting on behalf of the Sovereign. They were the cleanup crew. Alpha Blackwood is en route, the shorter man stated, adjusting the earpiece. If he gets to her first, the bond completion is imminent, and the Sovereign loses all legal grounds for annulment. Annulment? They weren't just trying to silence a scandal. They were racing against the fated bond itself. The Sovereign needs her alive. Her genetic irregularity, the Null factor, is too valuable to lose to the government's capture teams. We get her first. The Sovereign needed my irregularity. The truth of my hidden identity, the power I didn't know I had, was bubbling to the surface. My extra chromosome wasn't a liability. It was a weapon. I watched them walk another 20 yards ahead, their backs turned. This was my chance. I was about to slip past them when a massive shadow fell over me. The scent hit me so hard it stole my breath. Crew Blackwood. But this wasn't the man in the suit. This was pure, unadulterated wolf. He was colossal, easily a third larger than any pack wolf I had ever seen, his fur the color of midnight and rain. His eyes, fixed on the retreating agents, were glowing a ferocious gold. He wasn't tracking me by scent anymore. He had found me by following the intense, pulsing ache of the broken bond that tied us together. The PR agent, sensing the seismic shift in the forest, spun around just as Crew's wolf let out a bone-jarring territorial snarl. It wasn't a howl of pain. It was a sound of protective, possessive warning. The agent scrambled, pulling specialized tranquilizer rifles. Alpha, stand down. We are under the Sovereign's command. This is a recovery mission. Crew's wolf didn't hesitate. He launched himself toward the men. The ensuing fight was brutal, fast, and unequal. Crew's massive jaws snapped, tearing the rifle from the first agent's hands with an easy crunch. He wasn't trying to scare them off. He was fighting to protect his mate. As the second agent aimed his rifle, Crew slammed his shoulder into a pine tree, sending a massive shiver of pine needles and damp earth flying. The agent was distracted for only a second, long enough for the wolf to pin him to the ground with a dominant, silencing roar. The Alpha had cleared the immediate threat, but he hadn't seen me yet. He stood, chest heaving, his gold eyes blazing, surveying the clearing. I saw my opportunity and bolted in the opposite direction, scrambling over a fallen log. The wolf's head snapped toward the sound. He didn't track the movement, he tracked the mate bond flare. Before I could take another step, Crew Blackwood shifted back to his human form midair, landing naked, powerful, and utterly furious right in front of me. He was breathing hard, every muscle corded and slick with sweat. His gold eyes, now slightly faded back towards human brown, were locked onto me with a lethal intensity. He ignored the struggling agents behind him. "You ran?" he growled, the possessive dominance of his voice ripping through my composure. "You signed the paper. You took the money." He grabbed my arm, not gently, but with the demanding strength of an alpha who had been betrayed. I cried out, more from the shock of the raw mate pull than the pain. "I had to," I gasped, trying to pull away. "Your beta said you were being mated to a Luna. Your father was going to kill me." "And you accepted 2 million credits to reject the future sovereign?" His eyes dropped from my face to my backpack, where a corner of the official rejection form, crumpled but visible, poked out. His jaw clenched, the sound like grinding stone, the rage of a betrayed alpha replacing the instinct of a protector. He saw the crumpled rejection form and the check in my bag, and the betrayal was complete. He wouldn't hear my pleas about my family or the sovereign. He only saw the price I'd put on our mate bond. His hand closed on my arm with the possessive strength of a male who had found his stolen property. He yanked me close, forcing my eyes to meet his own, the feral gold demanding acknowledgement and submission, but finding only resistance. I belonged to him now. Crew's grip on my arm was painful, but the metallic ache it sent through the mate bond was worse. It was the crushing weight of rejection and the agonizing burn of possession all at once. "Let go of me, Alpha," I commanded, using the title as a weapon. "The bond is broken. I signed the paperwork. You are going back to be mated to your political ally." His eyes flashed again, the gold returning, hotter this time. "The paper means nothing when my wolf is screaming mine," he snarled, pulling me roughly toward a dense cluster of rocks forming a shallow cave. "I'm not risking a shift in the open. Get in." It was forced proximity, and it was torture. We crowded into the small shelter, the pine and thunder scent of his massive body instantly overwhelming the space. The air crackled with hostility and desire. "You took the money," he repeated, his voice low and dangerous, forcing me to look at the crumpled check in my bag. "You priced our bond, Maya. Tell me why." "I took it to save my family," I whispered, the vulnerability stinging. "Your beta told me your father, the sovereign, would eliminate me. I have a younger brother. If I'm an irregularity to you, imagine what I am to him." His possessive posture faltered slightly. He saw the terror in my eyes, and the alpha's protective instinct momentarily overrode his rage. He knew the ruthlessness of the sovereign, his own father. "My father is a monster," Crew admitted, finally letting go of my arm. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, the first sign of human exhaustion I'd seen. "I broke out to find you and complete the bond. Once you are claimed, the sovereign cannot legally sever it. That's the only law he still respects." I scoffed. "And the arranged mating to Luna Serena? Is that just theater?" He paced the small space like a caged predator. "It's blackmail. She controls the Eastern Territory's silver mines. He needs the power to stabilize the pack after I took this territory prematurely. He threatens to expose me and every decision I've ever made if I don't go through with it. He gave me 12 hours to reject you before he made the public announcement." 12 hours. The sovereign had been swift and brutal. My internal struggle was a riot. Human logic told me to take the 2 million, run, and believe this powerful, betrayed alpha was lying. But my wolf instinct was pushing me against the wall, ready to submit to his proximity, his pain, and his scent. "Then you should have accepted the political mating," I fired back, pushing away the ridiculous urge to comfort him. "You'd be safe. I'd be safe. I can reject the bond again." Crew turned on me with a ferocious snarl, his eyes flickering pure gold. "You will not mention rejection again. You are mine. You were mine the second my wolf saw your face." He advanced, his voice deepening into a powerful instinctual register. He was done negotiating. He was issuing a command. "You will stay here. You will accept my protection, and you will submit." The word hit me like a physical punch to the chest, the pure power of an alpha attempting to enforce his will. My body reacted instantly, my knees beginning to buckle, my head swimming with the instinctive need to obey the command. It was humiliation and biological necessity warring inside me. But then, the strange thing happened. The rising heat of my blood suddenly felt cold and sharp. The agonizing, insistent pull to kneel met an invisible wall. The energy that had been causing the impossible partial shifts in Chapter 2 surged, this time not into claws, but into a silent internal force. The command shattered. It didn't just fail, it canceled. Crew stumbled back, clutching his head, his face a mask of shock and searing pain. The golden light in his eyes snapped out, replaced with human confusion. "What did you do?" he gasped, his voice now weak, hoarse. "My command. It's gone. It's like my voice went silent. Impossible." I was trembling, but I was standing. I hadn't submitted. My hidden identity, the Null, had just manifested, not as a claw, but as a psychic shield that devoured the most fundamental power of an alpha. The profound silence following the failed command was shattered by a tinny synthesized voice coming from the pocket of Crew's discarded jacket. He quickly retrieved the device, a high-tech satellite communicator, and switched on the audio feed. "This is the Sovereign," the voice boomed, chilling and absolute. "To the Blackwood Pack and to the world, Alpha Crew Blackwood is currently indisposed due to a sudden, severe neurological event. The arranged mating with Luna Serena will be moved up to 48 hours from now. This alliance will secure the Null-neutralizing silver mines and the future of our kind. Until the mating is complete, the Blackwood borders are locked down. Any wolf harboring the rogue female, Maya, will be executed." The sheer, cold-blooded efficiency of the Sovereign was staggering. Crew was no longer the alpha. He was a political pawn, a sick wolf about to be married off, and I was a rogue female, a political inconvenience worth hunting and executing. Crew slowly lowered the communicator, his face pale with fury and fear. He looked at my standing form, then back at the communicator. He finally understood. "The mark is what saved you," he rasped, his eyes widening. "My wolf didn't just claim you, Maya. He sensed the Null. The Sovereign needs Nulls to weaponize, but you cancel the Alpha voice. You are the only natural, true Null, and the Sovereign is destroying everything to capture you." He shoved the check back into my hand. "Take the money. Run. You can't stay near me. I'm the biggest target for him, and being mated to me makes you his ultimate prize. You stop my power." "You want me to run now?" I countered, folding the check. "After I just canceled your command? I'm the only thing on this continent that can stop your father, and he's marrying you off to secure the one thing that can hurt me. Silver." A sudden sound interrupted our tense exchange, a low, rhythmic thump just outside the cave entrance. It wasn't a wolf, and it wasn't the Sovereign's security. It was a distant, mechanical sound, a helicopter. Crew stared at me, his eyes wide with a terrifying new understanding. He knew I was the Null, the one who could cancel his power, but before he could process the threat or the revelation, the low whirring sound returned. A black, government-issued drone, small but heavily armed, drifted silently outside our hiding place, its camera lens aiming straight at us. The federal government had found the Null, and the red eye of the surveillance machine blinked, signifying its lock on the two most dangerous wolves in the territory. We were now a target, and the war had just begun. The drone's red eye felt colder and far more dangerous than the alpha rage that had just nearly consumed me. Crew and I scrambled back into the tightest corner of the rock shelter, pressing against the cold, rough stone. The low, whirring sound of the government-issue surveillance machine was deafening in the tiny space. "Federal," Crew hissed, his scent turning sharp with genuine fear. He wasn't afraid of a pack challenge, or his father. He was afraid of the human world's organized, silver-laced power. That's not the Sovereign. That's the Department of Supernatural Regulation, the DSR. They're tracking the unique energy signature from my mark. "Why my mark?" I whispered, clutching the crumpled rejection check. "I'm the one who destabilized. I'm the irregularity." Crew pulled me closer, his protective instincts surging despite the risk to his power. "Because my mark shouldn't have worked on you. Your extra chromosome, what we called your irregularity, what the humans called Down syndrome, it's actually a genetic wall, a shield. It disrupts the mate pole, the shift, and the alpha command. He looked straight into my eyes, the gold light back, but softened with awe. "You're the Null, Maya, the genetic anomaly that can cancel out werewolf DNA patterns. The DSR wants you for experimentation. They think you're the key to ending our kind." The realization hit me with the force of an actual punch. My deepest insecurity, the one thing that had always made me feel weak, was the source of a terrifying, unique power. I wasn't a mistake. I was a counterweapon. The Null, it manifested when I stopped your command, I realized. It's a psychic field. And that's why my partial shifts are so volatile. My DNA is fighting my wolf's nature, trying to maintain the shield. Suddenly, the whirring of the drone changed pitch. A tiny silver-tipped dart shot out and embedded itself in the rock where my head had been seconds beforehand. "They're not waiting for an arrest," Crew growled, immediately shifting into his colossal wolf form. "Get out. Head north. I'll draw its fire." Crew slammed his powerful shoulder against the rock face, widening the shelter entrance. He burst out, a massive midnight blur, barreling through the trees toward the drone. The DSR machine pivoted instantly, firing a quick succession of darts. Crew is exposed. He's unprotected. Mine! My wolf screamed with a protective fury that transcended the pain of our broken bond. I couldn't just run. If a silver-laced dart hit him, the Null power in me wouldn't just cancel his command. It might cancel his life. I ran out after him. Crew was engaged with the drone, dodging its slow-moving darts with shocking speed, trying to smash the device with his jaws. But then, 3 more figures materialized from the tree line. Not the Sovereign's security, but a trio of rogue wolves, their fur patchy and their scents rank with desperation. They saw the Alpha fighting a drone and saw an opportunity. "Take the Alpha down! The Null is the girl!" the leader snarled. They didn't want me for my genetics. They wanted me as leverage against the mighty Blackwood pack. As one of the rogues lunged at Crew's exposed flank, I didn't think. I acted. I put my hands out, not to push, but to unleash the cold, silent force I had felt during Crew's failed command. A silent, invisible wave of energy erupted from my core. It wasn't heat. It was pure, canceling, cold. The rogue wolf, mid-pounce, hit the wave. He didn't drop. He didn't snarl. His bones began to crunch and retract. His fur receded. In seconds, he was lying on the forest floor, a naked, terrified human male, his wolf form forcibly stripped away. The other 2 rogues stared, aghast, at their rapidly de-transforming leader. I hadn't just forced a shift. I had annulled their wolf state. My power wasn't a shield. It was a genetic override. The DSR drone, momentarily confused by the sudden appearance of a naked man, paused its attack on Crew. Crew, standing over the downed drone, shifted instantly back to human form, breathing hard, his eyes wide as he looked at me. "Maya, you didn't just transform him. You made him just human." The de-transformed rogue, shaking and weeping, pointed a trembling finger at me. "I don't care about the Alpha. The Sovereign put a bounty on the girl's head, not for capture, but for extraction before the extraction team gets her." I froze. Extraction before the extraction team? That only made sense if the Sovereign had his own team trying to secure me from a different enemy. The rogue, desperate for mercy, blurted out the truth. "The Sovereign isn't hunting all Nulls. He's been creating them, lab-grown embryos using his own rejected lineage. He's weaponizing the Nulls and needs you, the naturally occurring one, to stabilize his formula." The pieces slammed together. The Sovereign's political mating to get silver, a Null stabilizer weapon, his desperate need for my genetics, and the $2 million bribe to make me disappear before I realized my power. The Sovereign wasn't just a pack tyrant. He was a bioterrorist. Crew stepped past the terrified rogues, his focus entirely on me. "My father is a monster, but I never knew. He created them. Maya, You are the blueprint for his army. He pulled out his satellite communicator again. It was a secure line, meant only for high-ranking Blackwood personnel. He accessed a hidden folder on the device, one marked with his late mother's sigil. This is encrypted data my mother hid, Crew explained, quickly downloading a file. She suspected my father was dealing with government contractors. Look at this. He held the device up. The screen displayed blurry thermal images of a vast underground facility interspersed with terrifying medical blueprints. One document title was chillingly clear: Project Chimera, Null Hybridization Protocol. The final image, however, wasn't a blueprint. It was a recent, low-quality surveillance photo of two of the PR agents who had cornered me in Chapter 2. They were standing outside the hospital, but they were talking on encrypted comms, not to the Sovereign, but to someone else. Under the image was an anonymous, 3-word warning attached to the file. Target the brother. My blood ran cold. The Sovereign knew about my family. He knew about my brother, who shares the same genetic irregularity I do. Crew stared at the terrifying file his mother had hidden, the thermal images of the underground facility, and the blueprint for Project Chimera. He finally understood his father was a bioterrorist, creating Nulls to weaponize, and I was the blueprint. The final surveillance photo on the screen showed the two agents who delivered the rejection check, and below it, an anonymous 3-word warning attached to the file. The warning pulsed on the screen in urgent red letters, confirming the true, heartbreaking goal of the Sovereign's entire plot. He was coming for my family. The tiny screen of the satellite communicator felt like a portal to hell. The blurred images of the lab, the medical diagrams, and the terrifying caption, "Target the brother," burned into my vision. Project Chimera, I choked out, the reality of the Sovereign's villainy eclipsing the immediate danger from the DSR drone, which Crew had successfully disabled. My genetics are the key to his weaponizing the Null power, and he knows my brother has the same irregularity. He knows because he was tracking you from the moment of the mark, Crew finished, his voice heavy with self-loathing. He slammed the communicator against the rock wall. My own father. He's been experimenting on omegas, trying to replicate what happens naturally in your DNA. He needs your brother to perfect the breeding protocol. Crew looked at me, his gold eyes dimmed by shame. I told you I was going through with the political mating to secure the Silder. That was true, but it wasn't the full truth. The real reason I didn't fight the rejection harder was that I hoped if I went back, if I played his game, he'd let you live. He'd let you disappear thinking the bond was weak. I thought I could protect you from inside. His confession wasn't an excuse. It was an explanation of his agonizing betrayal. The pain of his choice resonated through the still broken bond, proving his intent was to save, not just to abandon. The shame in his eyes made my wolf whimper, finally understanding the depth of his internal conflict. "You should have told me," I whispered. "You were running on instinct and righteous anger. If I had told you my resistance was just a slow surrender to save you, you would have stayed and fought him face to face. And then he would have had us both." The reality of the Sovereign's deadline hit hard. The political mating to Luna Serena was set for less than 48 hours. If Crew completed the ceremony, he would officially be bound to another, and his alpha power would be locked into a contract that gave the Sovereign control over the silver mines, the perfect tool to neutralize or weaponize Nulls. "We have to get my brother," I declared, my voice trembling but firm. "If your father can't capture me, he will take him. He has the same DNA, the same potential Null factor. We need to go back for him." Crew ran his hand through his dark hair, frustration etched on his face. "If we show up on Blackwood territory, it's instant execution for you and a mandatory ceremony for me. It's exactly what he wants. My wolf instinct surged, cold and decisive. Find the weakness, attack.
Then we don't go alone, I stated, pulling out my phone, retrieved from the stream after the rogues were subdued. The surveillance photo on your device, the one of the 2 PR agents at the hospital, they knew about the Null, and they were warned to extract me before the extraction team gets her. They aren't working for your father, Crew. They're working against him. They're still pack wolves, Maya. They reeked of duty. But duty to which pack? We needed information, and the people who were tracking us seemed to be the only ones who knew the Sovereign's deepest secrets. I had to gamble everything on the possibility that the PR team was an opposing force, not just cleanup. I used the encrypted contact number from Crew's mother's file, a desperate long shot. After 3 rings, a crisp, professional female voice answered, completely devoid of emotion. You've reached Blackwood Pack's Compliance Department. State your identity and your current threat level. My name is Maya, my voice steadying with sudden fierce resolve, and my threat level is Alpha Sovereign. I know about Project Chimera. I know you were trying to extract me from the hospital to stop the Sovereign from weaponizing the Null factor. And I know the political mating is in less than 2 days. Silence. Long, heavy, tense silence on the line. Maya, the voice finally replied, now softer, urgent. My name is Eliza. I am Beta to Luna Serena's brother, Alpha Kale. We are not PR. We are the Crestmoon Pack's counterintelligence team. The Sovereign is our enemy, and he's using my Luna as bait to secure the silver and the Null tech. You are correct. We need to stop him. The revelation was staggering. The Sovereign was being actively undermined by his own political allies. The marriage wasn't securing his future. It was a deadly trap. The brother is the next target, I told Eliza. We need extraction now. We know, Eliza replied, her voice grim. We've been tracking him. We can get to him, but we need a diversion big enough to draw every guard away from the main estate. A diversion only an Alpha can provide. Eliza sent me a low-resolution satellite image. It was a clear photo of the 2 agents from the hospital, the ones who'd first offered me the $2 million check. They were laughing, their arms linked, and on the nape of their necks, clearly visible in the photo, was a tattoo I'd missed before, the coiled serpent sigil of the Crestmoon Pack. They were coming home. Crew stared at the tattoo, his rage turning cold. They were playing a role. They were the ones who delivered the rejection check, a setup to make me believe you'd run easily. My father used them to break my spirit and secured the alliance. The entire sequence, from the viral bite to the $2 million bribe, had been orchestrated by the rival pack, not to betray me, but to force the Alpha and the Null into the open, away from the Sovereign's direct control. They needed me alive and unmated to stop the Sovereign's political power grab. The burden of the choice fell entirely on Crew. Eliza's team needed him to return to the pack, to accept the role of the political Alpha and walk into the mating ceremony. That moment of public compliance would draw every eye, every guard, every resource to the main estate, allowing Eliza's extraction team to quietly get my brother out. If he went back, he'd be locking himself into a bond with another Luna, potentially severing the fated mate bond forever. If he refused, the Sovereign would take my brother, and my family would become the genetic source for his army. Crew looked at the horizon, toward the distant territory line. His posture shifted, the Alpha's doubt replaced by the Alpha's resolve. He was choosing his duty as a wolf over his fate as a mate. He took my face in his hands, his possessive scent flooding my senses one last time. Eliza has a plane ready. You will take the 2 million, find your brother, and you will disappear with her team. I'm going back. I will put on the suit and I will walk down the aisle. He grabbed my face, forcing our eyes to lock, his alpha gold filled with desperate determination. I am accepting the political mating, he whispered, a solemn vow. It's the only way to be close enough to expose the sovereign and create a diversion large enough for Eliza to save your brother. I am choosing my duty as a wolf over my fate as your mate. He gave me a final, devastating kiss, tasting of promise and ultimate sacrifice, and pushed me toward the Crest Moon Plain. He strode away, back toward the Blackwood lines and the lie that would save my brother's life, leaving the scent of pine and abandonment heavy in the air. His sacrifice was too much, but would it be enough? I stood by the edge of the forest, watching Crew Blackwood stride away. He didn't look back. His steps were heavy with the knowledge that he was walking toward a public mating with another woman, effectively crushing the fated bond with me, all for a calculated risk. I will put on the suit, and I will walk down the aisle, he'd said. His words were a knife twisting in the psychic space where our bond lived. My wolf was howling, not just with pain, but with a fierce, possessive denial. He is mine. He cannot belong to another. But his choice was for survival. The sovereign was a monster, and my brother, the key to the Null army, was now the most endangered person on the continent. A moment later, Eliza, the Crest Moon Beta, emerged from the woods with 2 armed wolves, all wearing the serpent sigil of her pack. They were clean, professional, and radiating the scent of high-grade tactical gear. He's contacted us. He confirmed the plan. He goes back, plays the part, and creates the distraction. Our team extracts your brother. You will be traveling with us. I pushed the crumpled $2 million check into Eliza's hand. This is for the extraction. Get my brother out of my aunt's house. He's at the suburban border of the Blackwood territory. The sovereign is already tracking him. Eliza raised an eyebrow at the check, but nodded curtly. We're using a Crest Moon transport plane. We hit the house in 2 hours. Move your brother to neutral territory and wait for the signal. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was a race against the clock, against a political ceremony, and against the sovereign's lethal ambition. I wasn't just Maya the baker anymore. I was the Null, the one thing that could dismantle the werewolf world order. I had to use my power. We rendezvoused with a 4-person extraction team near my aunt's subdivision, a tense, silent journey. Every wolf on Eliza's team smelled like danger, duty, and professional skepticism. They saw me as the irregularity, the liability that their alpha sister was risking everything for. I can't wait 2 hours, I told Eliza, pointing to a subtle shimmer on the horizon, the faint scent of Blackwood guards closing in. The sovereign's perimeter wolves are already here. We go now, and I'm going in first. Eliza looked dubious. Maya, you're human. Mostly. You'll be shot on sight. I may be human, but my genetics just canceled the command of an alpha sovereign. I am a walking power jammer. If they try to shift or use the pack mind link, I can disrupt them, but I need to be close. It was a terrifying gamble. I focused on the image of my younger brother, the sweet boy with the quiet smile who loved to bake with me. He needs me. Protect. Mine. That protective surge, the instinct of my wolf combined with the unique canceling force of my Null DNA, manifested. I felt the cold, sharp energy expand from my chest, creating a palpable force field. I go in alone, I repeated. Once I find him, I send an all-clear signal. You grab us both and run. I slipped into my aunt's neighborhood, the familiar scent of suburbia overlaid with the acrid metallic tang of the nearby Blackwood perimeter guard. I used the Null power as a kind of sonar, feeling the shifts in energy. The guard was stronger near the house than Eliza had anticipated. I found my brother, Sam, sitting on his bed, sketching quietly. He looked up, his face lighting up with relief. "Maya, what's wrong?" I felt weird, like all the noise in my head went quiet. "That's me, Sam," I whispered, pulling him into a frantic hug. "And it's them. They're coming for us. We have to go now." I grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the back window, the extraction route Eliza had planned. But as we reached the window, a massive shadow fell across the lawn. A pack wolf, a high-ranking beta, stood there, his eyes glowing fiercely. "Sam and Maya, the Sovereign sends his regards. You will come with me quietly to Project Chimera." He lunged. I threw myself in front of Sam, unleashing the Null power with the full force of my terror. The beta wolf slammed into the invisible wall and recoiled. His face contorted in pain and confusion as his muscles seized. He couldn't shift. He couldn't command. But as I looked at Sam, I saw something that froze me to the core. His eyes were flashing with the same cold, quiet energy I felt. The Null power was awakening in him, too. He was fighting the beta's aggression, instinctively protecting himself. The beta, realizing the full scope of the double Null threat, pulled out a silver-tipped rifle. The Sovereign said if capture failed, we neutralize. A sharp, specialized tranquilizer dart whizzed past my head, but before the beta could fire again, Eliza and her team burst through the back door, weapons drawn. A fierce, silent battle erupted inside the suburban house.
Eliza grabbed Sam, throwing him over her shoulder. "Go, now! He's clear!" We made it out just as Blackwood backup arrived, escaping in the nick of time. We were airborne in the Crest Moon transport plane, flying toward neutral territory. Sam was safe, but the cost was still being tallied. I stared at the satellite feed on Eliza's comm screen. The scene was the Blackwood Pack's grand ceremonial hall. The pack was assembled, dressed in their finest ceremonial garb. The mood was electric, formal, and oppressive. The camera focused on the aisle. A familiar, dark-suited figure stepped out. Alpha Crew Blackwood. He was handsome, regal, utterly devastating. He looked every inch the powerful, dutiful Alpha. He walked past his scowling father, the Sovereign, toward the altar. And standing there, draped in silver and moonstone, was Luna Serena, beautiful, cold, and already wearing the look of a possessive meat. Crew reached the altar. He took Serena's hand in his, a clear, unmistakable gesture of acceptance. The pack erupted in a formal, respectful roar of approval. The Sovereign smiled, a thin, triumphant slice of cruelty. Crew looked straight into the single hidden camera that Eliza was monitoring, his eyes searching. He knew I was watching, and he had to play the part perfectly for the diversion to work. The ceremonial hall was silent, every eye fixed on the altar. Crew stood beside Luna Serena, his face a mask of iron control, accepting his fate for my sake. The Sovereign smiled, a thin, triumphant slice of cruelty. The priest raised his hand for silence, preparing to speak the binding words that would seal the political mate bond forever, nullifying any claim I had. Crew's eyes scanned the room one last time, a ghost of pain crossing his features as he looked straight into the camera. A farewell. The priest opened his mouth, and the single, crushing word echoed through the hall, solidifying the choice and my new reality. The Alpha now belonged to another. The image of Crew Blackwood holding Luna Serena's hand was a physical blow, a final, crushing agony in the remnants of our mate bond. The emotional severing was complete. "He did it," I whispered, numbly watching the screen from the Crest Moon transport plane. My brother, Sam, was asleep beside me, his small hand still emanating a faint, cold hum of Null energy. He was safe. Crew's sacrifice had worked. "The diversion is successful," Eliza, the Crest Moon Beta, confirmed, checking the readouts. "The Sovereign has pulled every loyal guard into the manor. Security outside is minimal." "Now is the time, Maya," Alpha Kale.
Luna Serena's older brother, stated, his face grim. Crew is now locked into the political contract. We attack to expose the Sovereign's Null plot and free my sister. You are the only one who can disable the Alpha command structure holding this pack together. The Sovereign's smug, triumphant face filled the screen. He was raising his hand for silence, preparing for the formal exchange of vows. No, not like this. My wolf surged forward one last time, ignoring the pain of rejection. Duty to family was met. Now it was time for duty to fate. Change of plan, I told Kale. We're not just exposing the Sovereign, we're stopping the mating. He chose his power to save my brother. Now I'll use my power to save him and claim my place. The Null power expanded from my chest, no longer cold but burning with a fierce silver light. I was accepting my true identity. I was not just an Omega. I was the Alpha's other half, the one meant to balance his power. Eliza, set the plane down on the manor's main lawn. Kale, you and your wolves secure the perimeter. I'm going inside. The Crest Moon plane landed with a screeching metallic groan on the manicured lawn of the Blackwood estate, shattering the solemn silence of the ceremony. Chaos erupted. Pack wolves, startled by the brazen intrusion, began to shift and snarl. I burst through the double doors, the $2 million rejection check held high in my hand. "Stop the mating!" I screamed, my voice amplified by the raw, crackling power of the Null energy flowing through me. Every wolf in the room froze. The scent of pine and thunder, Crew's scent, hit me, mixed with the sharp acidic reek of pure fear radiating off the Sovereign. Crew, standing at the altar, spun around. His eyes, the color of molten gold, found mine. In that moment, the emotional distance disappeared. He saw the fire in my eyes, the silver light radiating from my hands, and he knew the Null was here to fight. "Maya!" the Sovereign roared, recovering first. His wolf surged, and he issued a deafening pack-wide Alpha command. "Kill the Null!" Every loyal wolf in the room dropped to a knee, their bodies convulsing with the irresistible urge to obey. Except for two, Luna Serena, who had seen the Sovereign's fear, and Crew. I raised my hands, unleashing the Null field in a blinding, silent wave. The force hit the commanded wolves like an electromagnetic pulse. The overwhelming pressure of the Alpha command in their minds snapped and canceled. The kneeling wolves instantly slumped, confused and disoriented. My power had just neutralized the Sovereign's authority over his own pack. The Sovereign was furious. He knew he was exposed. He pulled a silver ceremonial dagger from his robe and lunged past the altar toward me. "The political power is mine! You die, anomaly!" Crew moved faster. He roared, a sound of unleashed protective fury that dwarfed his father's pathetic snarl. He grabbed his father's wrist, twisting the silver dagger from his grip. "You are not the Alpha, father," Crew thundered, his voice ringing with a power I had never heard before. "You are a corrupt tyrant. The bond is complete, and the Null will be the balance. I choose my true mate." He grabbed my arm and pulled me to his side. The contact, full, intentional, and public, caused the Null energy to merge with the raw Alpha power. The feeling was exquisite, terrifying, and total. The mate bond snapped into place. This time, it wasn't a traumatic claim on camera. It was an earned mutual completion. The merged energy, half Null, half Alpha, surged out in a blinding silver-gold pulse that enveloped the hall. Crew's eyes glowed with the combined colors. "He rejects the Sovereign's authority," Crew declared to the confused pack. "He rejects the forced mating. He chooses the Null. And by the power of our combined bond, the Sovereign's pack laws are annulled." The disgraced Sovereign let out one final, pathetic human scream and shifted into his old, graying wolf form, launching a desperate final attack. But his power was gone.
The pack mind link was silent. Crew met the attack, his own massive wolf a blur of protective motion. The fight was over in seconds. Crew pinned his father easily. The combined might of his alpha strength and the Null's canceling power overwhelming the old wolf. Luna Serena, seeing the sovereign defeated and her brother Kale entering with his security, stepped forward. She looked at me, no longer cold, but resigned. Your mate is an idiot, Null, but he is a true alpha. Take him. Crew shifted back to human form, breathing hard, his eyes only for me. He ripped the ceremonial shirt from his chest, exposing the mate mark on his shoulder. He brought my neck to his teeth elongating for a final, crucial purpose. This was the claim, the moment of ultimate truth. He didn't bite to possess. He bit to confirm. The pain was sharp, intense, but instantly followed by an overwhelming rush of warmth, belonging, and shared memory. The final stage of the mate bond, the emotional and physical merger, was complete. I was his. He was mine. We were one. The pack, now confused but submissive, watched as their new alpha, Crew Blackwood, stood side by side with his Null Luna, Maya. The one they had tried to reject and eliminate had saved them all from tyranny. Crew looked over the assembled pack, his voice ringing with the clarity of a true leader. This pack belongs to the truth, and she is my truth. She is my Luna. We will build a new pack, one where genetic irregularities are celebrated, not eliminated. Crew shifted back to human form, breathing hard, his eyes burning with triumphant gold. He looked at me, no longer possessive, but utterly devoted. He ripped the ceremonial shirt from his chest and brought my neck to his teeth elongating for the final, crucial mark. The pain was sharp, intense, but instantly overwhelmed by the rush of shared power, belonging, and emotional truth. The final stage of the true mate bond was complete, making us one. He roared the truth over the silenced pack, his voice ringing with the final, undisputed authority of a new, true alpha and his Null Luna, securing our future against all enemies. I was the alpha's Luna now, but I was more. I'm a living proof that no matter the genetic disorder or disability, anyone can still find their place in the world.